titled Projecting Military Power, Why We Have War Colleges. So let's begin. Power is the ultimate tool for acquiring what we want. And when I teach a business negotiations course, I emphasize that among the three tools available for achieving your goal, and they are power, influence, and persuasion, you should use influence and persuasion before using power to force the other side to agree to your terms. And in the realm of international political negotiations, Winston Churchill used influence and persuasion before unleashing bullets. His quote, that it's better to jaw than wah, says so. But if adversaries are to take notice, countries must project military power. The purpose of this podcast is to give you an overview of how America does that. Within the armed forces, there is a need for officers to maintain a continuing education. On the battlefield, mistakes and successes turn the tide of war, and both are critical for up-and-coming officers to learn from. Of the places where this education can be attained, America's war colleges are among the most prestigious. America's service academies include the Air Force Academy, the Coast Guard Academy, the Merchant Marine Academy, the Military Academy, that's also known as West Point, and the U.S. Naval Academy. And the United States has 5 war colleges. The Naval War Colleges, founded in 1884, is located in Newport, Rhode Island. The Army War College, founded in 1901 in Washington, D.C., is now located in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Air University, founded in 1946, is located in Montgomery, Alabama. National Defense University, founded in 1976, is located in Washington, D.C. And the Marine Corps War College, founded in 1989, is located in Quantico, Virginia. While these schools are still designed to offer military education to officers in the U.S. Armed Services, they are also open to civilian employees of the U.S. Department of Defense. Other countries have war colleges too. The Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, abbreviated RMAS, or RMA Sandhurst, is commonly known simply as Sandhurst, is one of several military academies in the United Kingdom. By the way, Winston Churchill graduated from Sandhurst. Russia does too, and when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, it became part of the Russian Armed Forces and is called the Military Academy of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Russia. China has the Republic of China Military Academy. America's military war colleges teach strategy, tactics, planning, and implementation of power to win battles and wars. And because confrontation and fighting are part of man's nature, the instructors illustrate from the dawn of recorded history the greatest methods as well as mistakes that apply to all theaters of war, which today include air, outer space, and cyberspace, as well as the traditional land and sea locations. So let's begin by taking a look at what ancient Greece teaches us. And by the end of this podcast, each of you can make vivid analogies between then and today's NATO, Putin's Ukrainian war, and U.S.-China confrontation. In 1000 BCE, Greece's Peloponnesian islands consisted of independent small cities whose people farmed the land and traded among themselves to meet their basic needs. They were vaguely aware that magnificent civilizations dating back thousands of years were somewhere out there, notably China, Persia, and Egypt. But Greece's cities focus on their immediate surroundings. And by 600 BCE, two cities had become the leaders, Athens and Sparta. Both valued the city over the individual, made slaves of the people they defeated or traded for, used Helot slaves and hoplite mercenaries, and had a shared form of self-rule. Athens created the first democracy. Everyone who owned enough could vote, while Sparta had a representative republic. The people of Athens were educated and sophisticated. They created much of what makes the West, or the Occidental world, great. Philosophy, poetics, art, and science. They explored the world beyond their borders and wanted more. And to do that became a seafaring power, possessing great fleets for commerce and combat. The people of Sparta stuck to themselves and to their land, and they built a society that honored self-defense. Young boys left their families at the age of 7 to train for combat. Sparta became the strongest land power. Its army included allies and mercenaries that had the best shields and spears and fighting strategies. They fought in 60 rows of phalanxes of men who marched forward shoulder to shoulder, using their shields to defend against archers' arrows. Sparta and Athens coexisted, but didn't particularly like one another. However, when the Persian kings, Darius, Cyrus, and Xerxes, marched to conquer Greece in 3 separate Persian wars, Sparta built an alliance of Greece cities to battle Persia. The battles of Marathon and Thermopylae are chronicled by Greek historians such as Herodotus and Thucydides, who also told about the Grecian generals' strategies. These generals used spies and traitors, devious diplomacy, technological innovation, and guerrilla warfare that are lessons even today for military college students. And the Greeks won, even though Persia had more land and sea power than any Greek city. And they did so by amassing enough power to thwart Persia on land or sea. The Greeks figured out that they can defend themselves if they have more power in one theater than their enemy. But an invader must have more power in all theaters at all times if it is to protect its supply lines and win. Herodotus and Thucydides tell us that after winning the Persian wars, Sparta and Athens engaged in a Cold War. Each had an Achilles heel. Athens didn't have the resources to become a land power, and Sparta didn't have enough to become a sea power. But that didn't stop them from sparring with one another. Athens was the aggressive adventurer, disliked by most Greek cities, and Sparta the patient, diplomacy-minded stalwart. Unfortunately, hubris triumphed in Athens, and it pushed itself into a 27-year Peloponnesian War won by Sparta. The war included at least one plague-related pandemic, and by its end, the war had exhausted resources and spirits of both Sparta and Athens, ultimately leading to Alexander the Great's conquest decades later. Of course, there are other famous wars and battles since then. For example, Rome's Punic Wars against Carthage, Caesar's Gallic War against what is now called France. War colleges add America's Revolutionary and Civil Wars, plus World War I and World War II battles, the internal battles leading to the collapse of the Soviet Union, and then America's Gulf and Afghanistan wars, as well as the war on terrorism. And now they add the latest from outer and cyberspace battles to make their students even smarter. Greek and Roman historians tell about great generals, but psychology hadn't been established way back then. So military colleges today draw from Machiavelli, Washington, Lincoln, Darwinian psychology, Churchill, Stalin, Hitler, and Chairman Mao. Then lead into the last 6 American presidents, the Middle East Ayatollahs, and Putin. You might want to read Andrew Weiss's book, The Accidental Tsar, which tells about the lives and life of Vladimir Putin. Or watch the PBS Frontline documentary, Putin and the Presidents, Putin and the Presidents, which gives a grim picture of how Putin seemingly duped them all. And from all of the above, here are what the writers and interviewers say about the lessons for the United States, NATO, and Ukraine to learn. The United States can defend its superpower status if its leaders learn from the history of power projection while adding the latest strategic and technological advances. Human nature doesn't change. We'll always have confrontations and wars. Know the differences between defensive and offensive strategies and what it takes for either strategy to win. In each theater, don't exceed your supply lines or what your technologies allow. You must dominate in all theaters if you are going to defeat rather than repel the aggressor. Don't go it alone. Depend on allies, but don't force your culture or style of government on other countries. Don't trust Russia or Putin. Realize that the Ukrainian forces are in an existential battle against Russia or Putin, and that fortuitously for the West, this existential battle overlaps with the West's battle between liberalism and totalitarianism. And don't expect the war to end soon unless one side launches a Herculean assault to defeat the other in all theaters. But history tells us that is unlikely to happen. You can learn more if you read books and articles or watch videos that give additional details. And I hope this video gives you enough to understand and judge for yourself most of what you'll hear on the news. And that'll do it for this podcast. I hope you find it helpful. Bye-bye for now.